In 1978, 16-year-old Bridget Geiger was waiting outside her home in Ohio for a boy named Jeffrey to take her to prom. When Jeffrey showed up, she was immediately disappointed. He was wearing this odd ensemble of vest and bow tie. He was also so nervous that he was visibly shaking and couldn't pin her corsage to her dress. Bridget's mom would take a couple of very awkward photos of them kind of stiffly standing in front of her house before they ultimately got in Jeff's car and headed for the prom. Bridget wanted to go on the dance floor to see her other friends, but she did stay with him, and it was clear that Jeffrey hated being at the prom. Bridget felt kind of bad and said, "Hey Jeffrey, do you want to go sit down and just grab a bite to eat over at the little food cart they have here?" Jeffrey's very relieved and says, "Yes, I'd love to do that." And the pair leave the dance floor and walk over to the little food court area. And instead of sitting down with her, he just walks away without telling her where he's going. But after a really long amount of time had passed, she got up to go look for him. She sees Jeffrey sitting on a curb just eating McDonald's cheeseburgers. And she's like, "What are you doing out here?" He told her that he just wanted to step outside and get a couple cheeseburgers and then come back and he would sit with her while she ate, but they wouldn't let him back in. And now that she was outside, she couldn't get back in either. She just says, "I'd like to just go home." He drives her home. She walks into her house. Bridget only saw Jeffrey one more time after that. It was about a week after prom, and Jeffrey invited her to come over his house for what he was calling a house party. She was polite and said sure. She gets there and there's no food, there's no music, there's like 3 people there. All Jeffrey wanted to do was have a seance and communicate with the devil. She was so immediately creeped out that after only a couple of minutes, she just turned around and left until 13 years later when she would read about him in the newspaper. On July 22nd, 1991, Milwaukee, Wisconsin police spot a man named Tracy Edwards running down the road in handcuffs. He says that a man was holding him hostage, that he threatened to kill me. I was able to overpower him and escape. The police go to this apartment and they knock on the door. The door opens and the police are confronted by this tall man who introduces himself as Jeffrey. He tells police this is all a big misunderstanding, but as they're talking to him, one of the officers kind of looks behind Jeffrey into his apartment and he sees on the coffee table what are clearly pictures of dismembered body parts. They arrest Jeffrey, and when his apartment was fully searched, a house of horrors is revealed. The apartment itself was littered with human remains. There were several human heads in the freezer and the refrigerator, and in his bedroom was a 57-gallon drum containing more dead bodies that were decomposing in chemicals. There was also evidence that suggested Jeffrey was eating these people, because Jeffrey, Bridget's prom date, turned out to be none other than infamous serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, who killed 17 people over a 13-year period. Just days after this picture was taken of Jeffrey and Bridget, right before they headed off to prom together, Jeffrey would kill his first victim and start that 13-year killing spree. Dahmer was ultimately given a life sentence, but was killed by another inmate.